broadcasting live 4 days a week worldwide
from the sunny beaches of Southern California.
This is ExtremeHealthRadio.com.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Extreme Health Radio. This is Tristan Truscott, co-creator of the Good Morning, Good Evening qigong with my dear friend and partner, Peter Ragnar. And it's awesome to be on the show with everybody.
We're really excited to have Mr. Bill Hencke on the show today. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be talking about energetic healing and something called Pranic healing with Mr. Bill Hencke. And he's actually been on our show, let's see, on episode 273 back in June 30th.
It doesn't seem that long ago, to be honest.
Right?
It flew by. Again, time flies.
Time flies, right?
Maggie's in her house with the lock.
Oh,
we have Bill in the studio, and you know how she can get.
That's right. She'll nip
strangers.
No good. So we'll be introducing him in just a moment. If you guys would like to support the show, there's lots of different ways to do that. You can go to extremehealthradio.com/Amazon. If you'd like to go through our link before you buy or purchase anything on Amazon, that would be very, very helpful to us if you guys would like to do that. We do broadcast 4 days a week on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific. So if you want to join the chat room and join the community of other listeners and ask your questions to our guests, a great way to do that is to go to our chat room, which is at extremehealthradio.com/live. And this is episode 330, Wednesday, October 15th, right?
Got it, yeah.
14? I was going to say 15. I have no idea. And we have Bill Hencke on the show today, and he was on episode 273. And his website is pranamedics.com. Is that your main website?
Yes.
Pranamedics.
Yes, it is. Pranamedics is my personal website for the business that I formed.
Okay.
And the United States Pranic Healing Center, they are pranichealing.com, one word.
That's right. I have two websites here, yeah. So Pranamedics is your website.
Yes.
And pranichealing.com. And we had the awesome opportunity to come up and see you in Huntington Beach. What was that? Maybe July?
I think it probably was a few weeks after we had spoken with you.
That sounds about right.
I think
it was shortly after, and you guys made the trip up to Huntington Beach to come to the office, and
that was so cool.
So cool, and we will do it again. That was great.
It would be great. There's a lot that's gone on since you've been there. So there's more furniture in the office. More. We've definitely moved in.
Yeah, you have quite a big space over there.
You know what? It's more space than we need for a healing, but it's allowed us to actually teach pranic healing. So once a month now, we actually have level 1 pranic healing being taught in that office, which is wonderful for the people in Orange County. They have a local place that they can actually learn how to do pranic healing for themselves.
On themselves and on their friends and anyone? It basically trains you to do it all.
You can do it for anybody, for your family, for your friends, and then self-healing is taught as part of the level 1 class. So,
wow.
Yeah,
how long of a course? Is it basically set out like a course, or does it go for run for a certain amount of time? Or
2 days.
Seriously?
2 days, yes. In 2 days, it's usually a weekend class.
Okay.
But we have had the schedule to meet the scheduling needs of other people. Sometimes if we want to do it over a couple of weeknights, but it's a 15-hour class in 2 8-hour days roughly. You can learn everything you need to know to start doing healings on yourself or for anybody else.
That's awesome. So just in case people haven't heard the show that we did, episode 273, which we'll put a link to that, how did you get into pranic healing?
So just so that our listeners can realize that when I first got into pranic healing, I didn't believe in it at all. My actual background is as a firefighter paramedic.
Right.
And so that's my background. Very, I wouldn't say closed-minded, but very, more mainstream as far as not open to energy healing.
You mean, so most people probably would look at something like this and think it's kind of weird.
Yes.
And
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I thought. It looked really weird to have somebody moving their hands around you and saying that was going to make you feel better and make you healthy. Quite a big leap of faith for me to believe something like that. And it took me a while to be even open to the idea. when I had a personal, medical situation with my wife who was having a difficult pregnancy. Doctors couldn't find anything wrong with her and couldn't do anything to help her out. So I looked into pranic healing, which I heard of before, and decided, well, now I've got nothing to lose. Let's try this. Let's take the class and see if it'll help my wife. And it did.
Wow. So what happened? So you took the classes, and how long did it take you to get through the classes?
So it's a weekend class,
Okay.
usually a Saturday, Sunday. And by the end of those 2 days, they've taught you everything you need to know to be able to move a subtle energy, to invoke for blessings, and then to work with the aura, to balance the chakras, and then allow their body to move past those blockages and heal themselves.
So you learned that. At what stage in your wife's pregnancy did that happen? When was
She
that?
was about 4 months along.
4 months along.
Yes,
Okay.
we still had a while to go.
And she was having difficulty?
She was in pain 24/7, full body pain.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
Her body was swelling up, and so medically, I figured, well, she's either preeclamptic or hypertensive. The doctor ruled everything out as far as any complication that they could
Really?
find. No way to explain why she was retaining fluids and in pain. So
there never was really a diagnosis. It was just something you couldn't really figure out.
Exactly, and they checked all those different things that would cause those symptoms. Everything clear.
Do you think that you would have gotten into pranic healing as much as you have had that not happened? You probably look back and think maybe there was a...
Looking back, that did it. I mean, if I would have come into another situation along the way, I'm not sure, but I do know that beyond a shadow of a doubt, that got me into it right there.
Wow.
And so it even when I was learning it and finding it working on my wife, I still wasn't really, I would not say I was 100% believing it. I thought, well, maybe it's just coincidence. You never know. But it took me a while of watching it work on many people who just spread the word by word of mouth, saying, "Hey, this is working. Go to Bill, get a healing," and watching it work. And I said, "This is working. It really is."
You know what's weird about that whole kind of idea is I'm the same way as you are. Is I believe in all this stuff, but I don't want to believe it. You know, and I'm
You're a
skeptical, but
skeptic.
I don't even know why I don't want to believe it. It's some weird hiccup that I don't want to be known as the guy that just believes everything.
That's
but,
actually good.
You know, it's weird. It's like I really resonate with it and I believe it, and at the same time, I kind of still have that weird. Well, what's really going on here? You know what I mean? And
My personal
Kinda like
mind
you.
is very concrete, very scientific. And
Yeah.
that's why I love science. I enjoyed paramedic school. Everything made sense. When I got into pranic healing, there was a point of time when I said, "This is really weird."
yeah, you kind of throw it away, all that out the window a little bit.
Exactly. But what helped me overcome that was that there is a very scientific method behind pranic healing. And the founder of pranic healing actually was a chemical engineer
Yeah,
by
what was
trade.
his name again?
Master Chua Kok Sui.
Yeah.
That's the world founder of pranic healing. And
When did he live, and when did he found or discover pranic healing?
he was born in 1951, and for his younger years was always interested in metaphysics. Did a lot of personal study in I would guess the inner sciences, and then towards his later teenage years became immersed in the energy field. And as a young age, in his book, his autobiography, The Origin of Modern Pranic Healing and Arhatic Yoga, he talks about spending 18 years of intense study with clairvoyants who were validating the energy work, and various patients who had medical conditions that he could watch healers working on, and for almost 2 decades, according to his story, he ate, slept, and drank pranic healing. In order to validate these teachings, to scientifically show how the energy moves and that there is duplicatable results in among energy healers.
Did he come up with the name pranic healing?
He actually named it pranic healing based on prana being the word Sanskrit word meaning life energy.
Okay.
In the other parts of the world, life energy is called different things. In the East, it's called chi or ki, commonly referred to, and we would call it in the West Holy Spirit.
Okay.
But prana, equivalent, Sanskrit equivalent, and so that's the name that he gave to this modality. There are many different alternative healing modalities, and there are many wonderful healings, but this one specifically named pranic healing.
We had a guest on our show. This is before you were on, Kate. Dr. Bob Marshall.
Yeah.
And I think he was around episode 13 or 15, right when we first started. And it was cool because he was talking about the plasma energy field that surrounds the body. And he was talking about the German scientists that have been able to replicate the data showing there's this plasma energy field. I'm sure you're nodding as, but excuse me. Excuse me. I might need some water, Kate.
Yeah. Go grab it.
Excuse me, I got a weird throat.
Those types of studies also helped me validate in my own mind the effectiveness of energy healing. When I found that that there are scientific basis, even though we can't see it, we can't touch it. It is measurable, and even scientists with delicate electronic instruments can measure the electromagnetic field around the body. They can photograph the aura. That also helped me say, okay, there is a scientific basis that shows something is happening.
They can photograph the aura?
There's a very old photography technique called Kirlian photography,
right,
which is for many years has been able to photograph that electric field.
Oh my!
Yeah, this doctor. Sorry, I got a tickle in my throat. But this doctor, Dr. Bob Marshall, a lot of his work is based on this energy field that surrounds the body. And what he says is the communication from our DNA to this plasma energy field around the body travels faster than the speed of light. And it was documented, I guess, and worked on through this doctor in Germany called Fritz Albert Popp. I'm sure you know who he is. And the health of the body is actually demonstrated and brought to light by whether or not the body is able to communicate with its own energy field, which I thought was fascinating. But it's still along the lines of exactly the same thing you're talking about.
Exactly, and that's really boiled down to the basics of pranic healing, the idea that your body is a mirror image of your aura, and that any illness, injury, or disease that you could have in your body starts off first in your energy field.
Isn't that wild?
In pranic healing, all we're doing, and what I love about this is I really don't have to be smart. I don't have to know exactly what's going on. I just have to be able to invoke for blessings and bring divine energy through my aura to the person that I'm working on, and then once their energy field is cleaned, their body will repair itself. It knows what to do.
So when someone has a health issue, like let's say they have digestive issues or skin problems or something, this problem originates in the aura or in the plasma energy field, or it starts in the body and then represents itself also. You can see it in the aura.
According to what we're taught, it starts in the aura, and that there are many different levels of the aura, many layers. So as over the course of our soul's progression, as we bring energies, deep-seated energies from deeper levels into our, manifesting down through the mental level, through the emotional level, into the etheric level, it manifests then in our physical body. So even injuries, they say injuries can be read first in the aura before they even appear in the body, which is bizarre, but I've heard many stories that validate that.
Really?
Yes.
Have you heard stories where they talk about the specific injuries, or they just kind of know that something is
They can
wrong?
see something wrong with, for example, one of your extremities and say, well, there's a problem there. And, I've heard people say, well, there's no problem there. I have no pain. Nothing's wrong. And then, within a week, they have an injury that shows up in that spot.
Oh man!
It's a weird thing is I feel like there's so much more going on with life and energy. But we had a guest, Dr. What is his name? Beagleson, Dr. Harvey Beagleson, and he was talking about he does this really comprehensive live blood cell analysis, and he was able to
the dark field microscopy.
The dark field microscopy. He's doing something that nobody else apparently is doing, or it's really sort of this technology that he's developed. And he was able to show that in certain pictures, women who are pregnant or women who were going to get pregnant. There was one picture he told us about where there was a picture in the blood of a woman who fractured her hip.
And she had never fractured her hip.
Never fractured her hip. And then a week later,
she
I don't
slipped
think
on
he
the
told
ice.
her about
No.
that either. He didn't tell her. But then a week later, she called him up or something where they talked, and she broke her hip.
Yeah.
That is so wild.
Weird.
That blows me away.
Does
But that's the same.
Same with
But
what
it does,
you're
yeah.
talking about.
I know it is. It's the type of thing I'm hearing about and I'm seeing, and I'm meeting people who have these stories, but it still blows me away every time.
What if something happens in the aura field and then it makes its way into the blood, and then it manifests itself in physical reality? Maybe that's the progression. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Whether it's in the bloodstream, in the tissues, our cells. I mean, they teach us that every individual cell in our body is its own little living world.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you figure out how tiny that is, and there's still so much life in that cell that, scientists can see on an electron microscope, it blows your mind. It really does.
So are there people that can't be trained to kind of be a conduit of healing?
Well, here's the way that Master Chokok Sui explains it in his book. If you have the capacity to drive a car, you have the capacity to learn how to do pranic healing. That's about the same difficulty.
To operate a car, you said?
Yes.
Yes.
Wow. So I mean, that's maybe not everybody, but most people that have that, enough ability to learn a skill, and driving a car isn't that complicated. Pranic healing, likewise, is explained so simply, so clearly, that with a couple simple instructions, you can circulate energy, and move subtle energy and duplicate healing outcomes with very little, experience, just with learning some simple techniques.
Does the practitioner, the person learning, have to have a belief in a higher power for it to work?
It's funny that you mentioned that. Of all the people that I've worked on, in 11 years that I've been doing pranic healing now, there's only one person I've worked on that had no improvement whatsoever. Everybody else, whether or not they had full, successful outcomes or, some partial degree of successful outcome, there was one guy I was working on that had no relief at all. And I finally asked him, hey, you know what? Is there a specific religious practice that you prefer so that maybe I can invoke a little bit something you're more comfortable with? And he said, well, I'm atheist. And I said, interesting.
Interesting.
I thought interesting because up until that point, I couldn't understand why isn't he getting any relief at all.
Wow.
He told me that, and he said, yep, I don't believe in anything. And I just left me wondering, is that a reason why? It doesn't matter what you believe in, but I think in pranic healing, since we are invoking blessings from somewhere above, you have to believe in something. It doesn't matter what that thing is. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter what you call it, but some higher source than we are is delivering the energies to us.
It's weird that he would come to you or see you or get a session with you.
Actually, this was a guy in my fire station, and he was having back pain. And when I first started out in pranic healing, I wanted to heal everybody. And I was like, hey, let's work on your back pain. Let's work on your shoulder pain. I'll take care of that knee. I found out not everybody was ready for it. And so I had to come to a certain acceptance in myself to say, I need to wait until people are ready. So this was one guy who was willing to give it a try. Didn't necessarily come to me, but I could see that he was suffering. And I said, hey, let me see if I can help you out.
Wow.
So yes.
It seems like there must be some connection between, maybe if you have a closed mind with regard to God or to whatever like that, I wonder if there's something that happens on an energetic level in your cells, in your body, to have that closed mind. Because that quote that says there's no disease other than a closed mind. And I wonder if something happens to your body if you have a closed mind like that. I wonder.
Well, they teach us that according to the concept of free will, we aren't forced to accept divine blessings. We certainly have the right to refuse or to not be open to those blessings. So yes, I think that's a huge part of it. People that have that find more receptivity within themselves to be open to that divine help will receive greater measure. But there's no, there's nothing that says you have to be open to it. People that just kind of shut that out. And that's one of the things I think in a material world, they say if you're living in the Himalayas and you meditate all day long, you don't need to make a lot of money. You don't need to pay bills. So life is easy. Here where we have, a life, a family and responsibilities, it makes it harder to keep that openness to divine help because we become entangled in that material, the side of things. And then the balance, I think, is to try to remember our divine source, to be open to those blessings, and then watch that help in our material world.
Yeah, because like you said, if we're so entrenched in our physical world, we get wrapped up in the idea that we're the only ones that can cause any kind of change. If we go to work longer, we're going to make more money. If we show up, when someone doesn't expect us, they're going to be happy. Mm-hmm. So our physical representation in the physical world, I think we get lost in realizing there's much more, that can affect change.
And that's one thing I never expected I would learn about in pranic healing as I continued through the higher classes and actually took the class of spiritual practice that goes along with pranic healing. It's called Arhatic yoga. They talk a lot about what you just mentioned.
Wow.
A lot about the correspondence between the divine help and how it changes our physical reality, to the point where now a lot of the healings I do for people aren't even for physical problems at all. We're doing a lot of relationship healings. We're doing a lot of prosperity healings.
Really?
Because it turns out that, according to what they teach us, money is energy like everything else. Mm-hmm. And that if there's a blockage in your field that's preventing that energy from coming to you, that if we can invoke for blessings and clear that blockage, then prosperity energies will also flow more freely, just like healing energies and everything else.
Yeah, because really everything is energy, right? I mean, it's all, everything is vibrating at the quantum level and all that, right? And
yes.
It's all energy.
Yes.
So how did your wife, so you worked on your wife, and how long was it before she started feeling better during her pregnancy?
Very, very quickly, she started noticing that she was feeling better. And one of the funny thing is, the funniest things to me was, she also had her share of skepticism to it. Uh-huh. She was feeling better. But what was funny was she was so uncomfortable that we had, in our bed, she was too uncomfortable, but we had another bed in our house that she was comfortable sleeping in. So she would sleep in that bed. Uh-huh. One day I went in there. She didn't know that I went in there, and I went in and just with pranic healing, I cleaned out all I cleaned out that bed, that room. I just felt all the congested energy in there. I cleaned it all out energetically. So it didn't look any different, but
without her looking. So
right. Without her looking, she wasn't aware. The next day after sleeping that night, the next day she mentioned, "Did you do something in my room yesterday?" She said she felt great. Oh. She slept well. She slept better than she had in weeks up to that point. And she noticed that something was different. And I told her, yes, I said, I did the healing technique where you can clear the energies in a room. And she was able to notice it.
And was that the first experience she had with it? So you hadn't done any work on her yet?
I had done some work on her,
okay.
Personally before, but never that type of space clearing before. So I thought that was interesting. I didn't tell her what I was doing, and she didn't know about it. So the fact that she noticed something and was kind of put to make that connection was very fascinating to me. And talk about overcoming my own, belief.
Yeah.
That helped validate for me that something happened, that she was able to notice that.
That's fascinating.
Wow.
Yes.
Bill, this is cool. Isby in the chat room, and Ashley as well. They're wondering, what would you recommend for people to do for daily care? Like, how do you take care of yourself and not let these things attach to you or bring you down?
Excellent question.
Yeah, right?
Because we're immersed in a sea of energy. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's stressful energy. Sometimes it's just negative emotional energy. How do you keep yourself clean when your physical health is dependent on a clean aura and clean energy field? Right, exactly. That stuff affects you. So there's a couple simple techniques that you can do to keep your energy clean. One they recommend is very simple, and that's a salt bath. Bathing in salt water is a fantastic way of cleaning off your aura energetically. And, I don't really sit in the bathtub ever, but I do keep a cup of salt in the shower. So after I shower, I rub salt all over my body and then rinse it off. I feel an amazing difference.
Do you?
Yes. I feel an amazing difference when I do that. Now, that's just a simple physical way to cleanse off some negative energies. One other thing that I like to do, and anybody who I do healing with, regardless of how often they come in for a quick cleanse, cord cutting, and that's not really something. Once you take pranic healing class, you learn how to do cord cutting. It's a very simple way to disconnect from all those connections that people make subconsciously. Other people are subconsciously connecting with your energies, maybe draining your energies or transferring negative energies. It's just a simple way of clamping those cords, cutting them so that your energy field can stay clean and doesn't get drained.
Have you ever met a person without cords attached to them?
Oh, I haven't met anybody yet without any cords. They teach us that
being human. I was going to say, it just seems like you come with cords.
Yeah. Anybody you think of, anybody you talk to, anybody you feel for is energetically connected.
Because we're all either giving energy to other people or we're sucking it from other people, right?
There's a constant exchange, yes. And I mean, also, looking at the scientific side of it, if you put hot water into cold water, the temperature will balance. The hot water will not stay hot once you pour it into cold water. Right. There's a constant exchange of energy in everything.
Wow.
Are we taking a break or no?
Yeah, we're a little bit over.
When we come back, I want to talk about what that cord cutting looked like when we had a session with you, what you did with the buckets of salt, because I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, that was really cool. I want to talk more about the salt. There's so much more
to
get
to.
This is too good.
It's awesome.
All right, so we're with Bill Hencke, and his website, if you're interested in checking him out, is pranamedics.com. We'll post that in the chat room as well as on this page. This is episode 330 with Bill Hencke. And we'll be right back right after this break.
I wanted to tell you about this really powerful and unique product called the Q Laser. Did you know there's over 2,500 peer-reviewed clinical research studies showing the benefits of low-level laser therapy on the body? We had Dr. Larry Lytle on episode 165 talking all about it. Dr. Lytle, what is the Q Laser?
The Q Laser is a light-delivering device, handheld, rechargeable, that is for lay people and professionals, that works at the cell level of the body to restore energy. Since the body is all composed of cells and the cells are composed of atoms, it's good for any and everything in the body. It is especially beneficial for injuries. It will reduce swelling and inflammation before your eyes. Literally, you can have a sprained ankle and fly the laser, and within 30 minutes you can see that the swelling in the ankle has been reduced. Since all disease is inflammatory, you can assume that same process is working if you have some type of intestinal problem. We have pictures of using a heat instrument to diagnose the intestinal inflammation. We can show that intestinal inflammation is pretty much gone within 3 minutes using the Q1000 laser. It's the number one tool in your medicine cabinet. I have a saying, never leave home without your laser. I have had 3 serious burns, and each time I had my laser with me, I applied the laser immediately after I had the burn. I never even blistered.
Kate and I don't want to be without ours. We've worked out a special deal with Dr. Lytle for all of our listeners. If you'd like to learn more about how the Q Laser can dramatically improve your health, go to extremehealthradio.com/laser. Hey guys, if you've been following our work for any length of time, you know that I'm a big fan of raw food. I did a raw food diet actually from 2003 to 2010, 100%, and I loved it. And raw food is a huge part of my diet, and I just love it. And if you're interested in making healthy, really amazing raw food dishes without spending hours and hours in the kitchen, I would highly recommend checking out a program put together by Russell James called the Raw Chef Program. You could check it out at extremehealthradio.com/raw chef. And I have to say, it's absolutely incredible. I have it, and it's got hundreds of hours of video, professionally done video, along with workbooks and PDF files. And he walks you through how to make the most amazing, delicious raw food meals that don't take forever. Everything from mock pizzas and pasta to ice cream to cheese to fluffy bread, if you can imagine it. It's incredible. So I highly recommend you checking it out. It's you can check it out at extremehealthradio.com/raw chef. And I think you are absolutely going to love this program. So check it out now.
100% listener supported. Extreme Health Radio. Opening minds and transforming lives worldwide. Don't forget to join our thriving community for health tips, inspiration, and show updates at extremehealthradio.com/Facebook.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Now we have our little dog meeting Bill for the first time. Hopefully she doesn't bite his hand off.
And if she does, maybe you can teach her something or two about healing. Hey, speaking of that, does that work on animals?
Oh, pranic healing?
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
They do teach us how to do pranic healing on animals, some simple techniques. And, I never really thought much about it, but at one of the first healing clinics I ever went to, a lady brought in her dog for healing. And I said, wow, go figure. There are people that, I do have a handful of people that bring their pets in for pranic healing sessions.
Holy moly.
Yes, and animals are very sensitive.
to energy.
They
and everything.
feel it right away. And, I don't know the animals well, so I can't really tell you, but the owners will say, oh yeah, they look a lot more relaxed. They look like they're feeling a lot better, a lot more comfortable.
Wow.
And so, I mean, they feel it right away.
Huh. That doesn't surprise me with the way.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all.
No, Maggie's felt some energy in here before when we've had certain guests on. She gets kind of, you can tell, or how cats are very aloof and they see things and their eyes are darting around. I mean, I think that wouldn't surprise me if they're responding to.
No, they are very sensitive to a higher level of energy. I mean, they can hear things we can't hear. They can feel things that some of us can't feel,
and smell things we can't.
Oh, absolutely!
Yes.
Yeah, their sense of smell. So that's
Yeah,
a very physical side of looking at their senses greater than our senses. Who's to say that they don't have this higher sense than we have? And even in pranic healing, they teach us. And sometimes we use crystals. It's a tool. Crystals aren't necessary in pranic healing, but they are tools you can use. They tell us don't use crystals when you're working on pets. They're so sensitive, it would be almost uncomfortable for them to feel that strength of energy.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So we have this crystal here. I don't know what it does. I like it.
Oh, yes. That's very good.
amethyst?
An amethyst. Yes,
It's
wonderful. Good. That's a good all-around crystal for general purpose. Yes, amethyst. You can't go wrong with that.
Wow.
Well, okay, before the break, did you need to mention anything before we delve into this? So before the break, I'm so curious because Justin and I got the pleasure of coming up and having a session with you.
Yes.
Watching pranic healing, I had no idea what to expect. It's very relaxing. You sat us in a chair, and over to the side you had buckets of salt water, right? Correct?
Yes.
And then watching you was like watching a beautiful dance. It was gorgeous. I mean, you were literally almost like miming through the air of feeling for these cords and hacking them, cutting them, dissipating them. How can you feel cords attached to someone? How can you get so in tune? If someone just takes the training for 2 days, are they immediately going to be able to feel cords and what's going on with that? Or is that something that's developed more over time with experience?
A little of both.
Okay.
Yes, I'll be the first to admit that when I took my first 2-day class, I didn't feel anything.
Okay.
Okay, so I was doing those same hand motions just as a matter of the technique that they taught us.
Just going through the motions.
Just going through the motions.
Okay.
Yes, I would be lying to you if I said I felt anything in those first sessions that I did.
Yeah.
Yes, I didn't feel anything, but they told us, be aware. And it's a certain awareness too. We're not just doing hand motions, because anybody could do those same hand motions and not get the same effect.
Okay.
There's a certain awareness that you have to put your mind into. So with your mind, you are forming the intention to move energies along with those hand motions. Now, the direction that you circulate the energies is important. The motion of cutting cords is important. So as you form that intention with your mind, then it's really your mind that's doing the work. Your hands are going through those motions, but it's a combination of mind and motion. Now,
is it important because you could do damage if you're doing it wrong, or it's just not going to be effective?
It wouldn't be as effective.
Okay.
And here's the catch though, is that early on, even though I couldn't feel anything, the outcomes were successful.
Really?
Yes, the healing outcomes were successful, and I was just going by the word of the people that I was working on, or watching it in their body. Like if somebody had swelling on a finger that was jammed, that swelling usually takes a couple days to go away. I was watching swelling go away over the course of a few minutes. And I said, okay, that is a validation I can see. I can look at swelling. I could look at discoloration, like that purple swollen discolored, joints, and watch that turning back to normal over the course of a few minutes. And I could see blisters going away in a few minutes. Wow. That was for my own validation to see it working. This is despite the fact that I couldn't feel anything in my own hands as I was doing the healing technique.
Wow.
Now, the way that one of my instructors explained it was that as a paramedic, I was taking on a lot of negative energies from the patients that I touched. And they say anybody that works in healthcare, and this goes to doctors, dentists, nurses, chiropractors, massage therapists, anybody that you hairstylists, if you're touching people, then you are taking on to your arms some of that energy. Oh. And so somebody that was able to feel the energy scanned my arms and said, oh yeah, your arms are very congested. So I spent a couple days or even a couple of weeks just doing sweeping on my own arms. And that sweeping technique is simply a matter of passing your hand with the intention to remove negative energies along the course of my arms, and then feeling that energy coming off my arms. After a couple weeks, I started noticing it's a very subtle feeling, that energy. It's very soft. It's almost imperceptible. But once you can feel it, then you get comfortable with what you're feeling. So it took me a few weeks to develop that sensitivity. Now, when I'm doing a healing and you see me moving my hands, I'm actually able to feel into my palms different sensations. And sometimes it's like a cramping or a tingling or a pressure, like a very slight pressure. And it's all these little sensations that I feel. And now I know, okay, that is the feeling of whatever congested energy there is.
Wow.
I don't have to know why it's congested. I don't have to know if that's a stress energy or an anxiety or a fear. All I know is there's something there that shouldn't be there. So I'm just gathering those cords. And if you can picture, like clamping an umbilical cord, that's the idea behind it, is that as you bring your hands together, you set clamps on those energetic cords and then cut right in between them. That allows the other end of the cord to be, disposed of properly, while your end of the cord is just kind of sealed off. And
so if someone were to have their cords cut like that, is it possible that they could walk out of your office and go live their daily life and reconnect those cords?
Well, it seems like one of the purposes, and I didn't, they taught this at one of the higher classes, the cords that we disconnect, we are instructed to form the intention that they are being connected to a nearby spiritual organization, like a church or temple, or somewhere that they can be spiritually nourished without leaving them hanging. Because remember, they were feeding off of that person that they were connected to. Right. So we try to make sure that they're left, properly, fed and nourished. Meanwhile, the person I'm working on has their energies cleaned. But once you go back into the world, you're kind of jumped back into the ocean of life energy. Yeah. And you're still, reconnecting. That's a constant process.
Yeah.
And that's why, my goal in healing is not to do healing on somebody for very long. I want to fix them, and then if you want to come back and say hi or give me a call, that's great. But I don't want you to coming back for healings over and over.
Yeah.
What I found is most people come back for healings because they say, okay, it's been a month. I feel like my energies are dirty again. Can we do some cleansing? And that's, absolutely. Yes, wow. It is a process.
And if someone were to have a disease, like say, I don't know, like the C word, for example, or a cold.
The other C word.
Yeah, the other C word. So something that's more chronic and more deep rooted in the body versus like just a cold infection. If someone were to come in with a deeper health issue like that, does it take more sessions for someone to undo and reverse something like that?
That's almost always the case.
Okay.
Absolutely. In fact, and that's another reason why in my mind this makes so much sense. Mm-hmm. Somebody with a very simple, short-term, an ailment that doesn't involve so many of the body systems, usually you'll get a very good healing right away. Uh-huh. If somebody has a long-term illness, long-term disease, or an injury that's been going on for a long time, it stands to reason that it may take a while to manifest that perfect healing. And so maybe after one session, we'll get 50%, or we'll get a certain percentage of remedy. There may be deeper energies that still need to be cleansed. And so maybe a follow-up or two might be required. And, for very, systemic illnesses that affect more of the body, it does take a longer process. And, wow. And what I found is that just makes sense too. Mm.
It's funny because, there's that verse in the Bible that talks about, Jesus says, if someone has faith like a mustard seed, or, if you say to this mountain, move, it shall be moved, or whatever. It's interesting because I wonder why, like cancer is, or heart disease or heart attacks, like these are all just no different energetically. They're just energy, right?
Yes.
And so I wonder if the reason why it would take more sessions with someone is because of our humanness, or the fact that we also are a part of this whole weird thing that we call being human. And if we were having a pranic healing session with Jesus or with some person like that, it might just be an instant fix. But I wonder, do you think that there's some aspect of our own humanness is one of the reasons why it might take longer to? Because how people will say, that do all that manifestation stuff, they'll say, well, manifesting $1 million is the same as manifesting 100, so it's all just energy anyway. I wonder if
qualitatively that's true. There is a quantitative aspect of it, mm-hmm. and that's one of my favorite quotes from Master Chua is that we are all made in the image and likeness of God. That is true qualitatively, but there's also a degree of separation. I think it's safer to say that Lord Jesus is more connected to his divine source than most of us are. Mm. And so his powers are so much stronger than most of ours. But we still have those same powers nevertheless. And so, and I love that phrase, having faith the size of a mustard seed. in pranic healing, they teach us that the most important factor in a healing is the person's receptivity, the person that I'm working on. They have to have, the more receptive they are to divine energies, the better their outcome will be.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Now, it's okay to be skeptical. Skeptical is actually very safe. That's a healthy attitude. But we say, you have to believe that it might be possible, that maybe this will work possibly.
Yeah.
If you can at least, if we can get to that point.
All the little words.
Yeah, if we can get to that point, at least then you have that little bit of a window of opportunity that you'll be receptive to those blessings.
Yeah.
And so in manifesting, yes, what I found is, the faith is an important aspect, but also the energy that you're using to create whatever your intention is, that takes energy. So the question is, how much life energy are you moving through your aura? A person with bigger energy centers, with bigger chakras, is going to move more energy, and so maybe accomplish a manifestation more quickly than somebody with smaller or more congested energy centers.
Yeah, it's funny because there's also that verse that just came to mind, where Jesus said something about, you will be doing works much greater than these, or healings much greater than I have, or something like that. I thought that was so strange.
I don't hear them say that very much in church. Yeah. But it's there.
Yeah, you're right.
It's in there. It is in there. And so, cause I have, so many people are, talking about, well, does it say this in the Bible? Does it say that in the Bible? There's a lot of things it says in the Bible that talk about our own divine perfection, about our divine abilities. And one of those is great. Yeah. All these works that I've done and even greater things that you will do. Is it not written in your scriptures that you are all gods? I love that verse. And also there's one verse where Jesus specifically says to people, go and heal the sick, as an instruction to his apostles. So I think the healing work is divinely guided. And so, there's certain things in church they emphasize, certain things aren't emphasized so much. If you look at that and realize that we do have a certain divine, connection, and then you just kind of, as they would say in pranic healing, don't necessarily believe it. Just try it for yourself and see if you can validate the teachings.
Right.
So that's where I'm at with my own skeptical mind is I'm going to just try it. I'm going to see what happens. And then if it works, I'm going to say, well, then it works because I've been able to witness it with my own eyes.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's some questions in the chat room about the salt factor.
Oh, yeah.
Why is salt, and what kind of salt? Is it magical salt? What happens to the salt water after you do a healing? What do you do with it?
Oh, okay.
How does that work?
It's funny that, the salt water, it's in the ocean. And so people that go surfing, all my friends that surf say, oh, it feels so good when you go surfing. It's a very cleansing element in salt. And in one of the pranic healing books, it describes that the chloride ions is the actual part of the salt that energetically cleanses, disintegrates the negative energies. So that's why, if we talk about what type of salt, Epsom salt doesn't work so much. I think it's a different chemical. It doesn't involve the chloride ions, so that's not effective. Table salt, when I'm doing healings and I'm dumping salt in a bowl, I use table salt. It's plain and simple.
Like the Morton's.
Exactly.
Like
I buy it in a 50-pound bag of table salt, and I go through about a bag a month.
Wow.
Now, if you're going to rub it on yourself, there's people who are at higher levels of wellness that want something really pure and really healthy. You get some good sea salt. A good high quality of sea salt is probably healthy. Because your skin absorbs a lot of that in as you're using it. But the reality is it's plain old salt. And then once you do a healing session, they teach us you probably don't want to water the plants with it. You probably wouldn't want to let anyone drink the water. We dump it down the drain.
You dump it down the drain.
In fact, after you do the healing session, you can hold your hand over the salt bowl and you can feel some heaviness for about 15, 20 minutes or so. And then after that, you can kind of feel that that's gone. And then once that's gone, that energy's been fully disintegrated, and then we'll just dump it down a sink drain or a toilet drain.
So you dump salt in between each healing session, or do you keep it all and at the end of the day you dump it down?
I usually change it out between sessions.
Okay.
Yes. I'm sure that if it's not like that person is touching the salt water, sometimes if I have a lot going on, I'll just maybe use a bowl for a couple of sessions. But eventually, you're going to want to dump that out and put a fresh bowl of salt water.
Speaking of salt, have you ever done any floating? Do you know what that is?
I've heard of it. I've heard it's really, really wonderful. I've not tried it.
There's an amazing place called the Float Lounge.
Newport Float Therapy.
Newport Float Therapy, and it's not far from you. And it is. We've had Ron Becker, who owns that, on the show,
Really?
in studio, and he's just amazing. And yeah, it's not very far. It's only a couple miles away from where you are.
I'd like to give that a try. I've heard amazing things.
And when you were talking about salt, it just made so much sense because it's filled with about 900 or 800 pounds of magnesium salt.
Oh, wow.
And maybe that's one of the things. And after each session, they put it through this intense filter after someone gets out. They filter it with UV and light and ozone and all this stuff. And it's an amazing experience to float.
You feel so healed. Like there is an aspect of healing you feel when you get out of there, and I'm sure
you should
there's
try
some
it.
solidity.
Yes, I'm going to have to put that on my list of things to do.
Yeah.
And I found that that's what I'm starting to do more often now, is to try and do things to take care of myself. Every now and then I have to just block out a couple hours and say, I'm going to do something, whether it's go out and kayak for a little while or go have healing done on myself.
Yeah.
That would be another great thing to just do for myself to keep, sometimes we neglect ourselves in the busyness of life.
Sometimes.
You have to try it. You have to try it.
Awesome.
It is so weirdly and strangely addicting because you're laying there and there's no light, there's no sound, there's no smell. All 5 of your senses are completely gone and you're floating. You can't feel the water because the water is the same temperature as your blood. And then the air is the same temperature as your blood too. So after a while, you're just laying there in this box full. It's just completely dark. And you
with
feel
earplugs in.
With
you
earplugs,
can't hear anything.
And it's the most surreal thing that you've ever experienced. It's strange.
Like you said, it's like being with it's just your brain. It's almost like your mind is there and your body just is gone.
That sounds like a complete disconnect. Like just, how long does a session like that last?
Well, you can book, I think the minimum is an hour, but there are people that do it for 4, 6, 8 hours.
Wow. That would be an amazing disconnect just to let your whole system reset.
Don't you think? I mean,
and one of the great things about it
love
too
it.
is that it disconnects you from, the cell phone. And it's funny because if you were to sit in silence, like, maybe in prayer or meditation at home, and you do it and you feel things, you still see things or you hear things. But when you're in there, everything is taken away from you and you have this magnesium salt that's absorbing into your skin. And so it's the weirdest thing because you would think you'd go into a place like that and you think, my mind's racing. What do I need to do today? But for some reason, it's the salt or something. It completely takes your mind. All you want to do is just zone. And it's the most healing thing.
it is the most healing.
That would be great for that to catch on also, and to have those facilities more accessible to people. I think would be great. Just a way to really get in and kind of shut down for a little while.
Yeah,
incredibly therapeutic. I
want to ask you. We got to take a little bit of a break here, but I want to ask you about. Some people might be wondering about if you have your own issues with an energetic drainage when you're working with people. If you have people, so
that's an excellent question. Yes, very important.
After the break, we're with Bill Hencke. And this is episode 330?
330, and you can check them out at pranamedics.com.
330, Bill Hencke, and we'll be right back right after this break. Moving into the year 2013 and beyond, we're going to have to get really creative and develop a strategy of how to get healthy and the ways to get medicines into our body that are unique and specialized. And I first heard of nebulizing from David Wolfe. If you want to listen to his episode, it's episode number 35. But he talks about nebulizing different medicines. And what that means is turning liquids into a smoke, basically, that you can breathe in. And the pharmaceutical and drug industries use these things for patients to take pharmaceutical drugs and nebulize them so patients can breathe them into their lungs. But we're very proud to be offering what I think is the best nebulizer on the market. It's called the Omron Personal Nebulizer, and you can check it out at extremehealthradio.com/Omron. That's OMRON, and that will redirect you to a page where you can buy that. And it's really great because you can put in natural substances like colloidal silver or MMS developed by Jim Humble, and things that will kill on contact viruses and things that are taking place in your lungs. And it's a good way to get these medicines into your body. And I think that as we move forward, people are going to be sicker and sicker. And if you have a cold or any kind of throat issue, if I ever had cancer, I'd probably use a nebulizer. And the Omron is really great because you can travel with it. It's really portable and it runs on batteries, and it's really the best nebulizer on the planet. So if you're interested in this kind of thing and want to use these types of things, I think it's really critical if you're traveling a lot or if you have family, you want to just have this on hand, almost like in your medicine chest, so that if you ever need it, you can nebulize these colloidal silvers and MMS and other substances to breathe directly into your lungs to kill these pathogens and viruses and all these things that are living inside your lungs and your bloodstream and stuff. So it's very, very interesting. So these Omron portable nebulizers are a great way to do that. So you can check it out, extremehealthradio.com/Omron, OMRON, or you can visit our store and learn more about it in there. So thanks for listening, and let's get back to the show. I have to say, I have been absolutely loving this product by Tristan Truscott and Peter Ragnar called Good Morning, Good Evening Qigong. If you want to listen to the interview we did with Tristan, you can go to extremehealthradio.com/127. And Qigong is a great way to de-stress the body. And as you know, there's a huge component to disease caused by stress. And stress is a huge factor in how we live our lives and the amount of energy we have and the amount of vitality we have. And so, Dr. Shade, what do you think about Qigong?
People come to me and they're really sick and they got this blown out neurological system and all this toxicity. And I tell them, you need to do Qigong, Tai Chi. You need to do these things that settle down and restore your neurology, because it puts together all the parts. It puts you back into that state where you can start to detoxify. And so I highly, highly recommend all that.
And what about you, Kit Campbell? What do you think about Qigong? Do you like it as well?
Qigong is amazing. And the reason that I believe it to be amazing is everything here is energy. That is a scientific fact, if there ever is one. So when you're practicing Qigong, you're actually drawing energy into your body. Your intention, whatever your intention is behind any action, will determine the level of energy, type of energy that you absorb into your body. So your intention behind is very important, just like thought. So when you're practicing Qigong, you're actually bringing energy in and you're bringing out the stuff that might be a bit stale. With Tai Chi, it's totally different. The energy runs underneath the skin because it's more of a martial. This is the Chinese understanding, by the way. It's more of a martial art. So Qigong is very, very good for bringing that energy into the body, and just fantastic.
If you're interested in picking up this Qigong course by Tristan Truscott and Peter Ragnar, go to extremehealthradio.com/Qigong. That's QIGONG. And you can learn more about it. There's a great video on that page, and you can learn more about it on that page. And I highly, highly recommend this product. I love it myself, so go ahead and check that out. extremehealthradio.com/Qigong.
All free shows, all the time, on Extreme Health Radio. Opening minds and transforming lives worldwide. Join our community today. Sign up to our email list and instantly get our free gift to you, along with loads of inspirational content and cutting-edge tips to help change your life at extremehealthradio.com/subscribe.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I just want to let you guys know that if you would like to sign up to our newsletter list, that's probably a really great way, or probably the best way, to stay up to date with our shows. Tomorrow we have Dr. Stuart Nunley on. He is our biological dentist in Texas, and we've been to him one or two times, actually twice.
Yep.
2 different trips. And on Friday is our Free for All Friday show. And then next Monday we have Anne-Marie Gianni from Anne-Marie Gianni's skincare line. She's going to be talking about her skincare and how to take care of your skin without chemicals. So if you want to keep up to date with all the stuff we have going on, the best way to do that is just to sign up to our newsletter list. We send you a free ebook called Lessons from the Miracle Doctors that sells for $20 on Amazon, and you can get that for free if you sign up. So there's lots of great things going on there, and we have thousands of people on there. So if you want to join our newsletter list, stay up to date with our show. And Bill, I forgot to say, thanks for coming down. How was the drive?
It was not bad.
Was it good?
All things considering, an early morning drive to South Orange County, it could go either way.
Yeah.
No, the drive was not bad at all.
Okay, good. I was hoping there was no traffic. And
No, traffic. Once I got to the freeway, traffic was fine. And and I love your location here. I don't make it to this neck of the woods very often, just to drive around and look at your proximity to the ocean and how beautiful it is here. It is beautiful.
We're pretty darn blessed.
Yes, this is wonderful. And so a treat for me to be here.
Awesome. Love having you here.
Wish you could go to the beach because we're only 2 blocks away, but I know you got to head back. But before the break, so during the break, you guys were talking about something awesome, and I want to get to that because I don't want to miss that. But just for people that are interested, as a pranic healer and someone who works with pranic healing on people, is there an issue with you losing your own energy? Because a lot of times people think, massage therapy or these kind of different, Kate comes home and she's just drained, wiped out. And I know you've explained to me kind of how it works a little different.
Yes, and that's one of those things. When I got into this, that wasn't really on my radar because I didn't know much about energy healing. But what I've learned along the way is that is one of the big risks in energy healing is the energy transfer and the energy drainage of the healer. One of the reasons I'm so glad I got involved in pranic healing is because Master Choa Kok Sui was a stickler about energy hygiene. The hygiene of the healer. In other words, being able to stay clean energetically to be able to do more service and do more healings. So one of the reasons why pranic healing is so wonderful is that by the fact that there's no physical contact with the person we're working on, that minimizes the energy exchange, first of all.
Oh, wow. So there's something about touching.
Exactly. That's a big part of it. And second of all, there's a lavender spray that we use on our own hands while we're doing the healing, which disintegrates negative energies that may be taken on. And the other part that prevents our energy drainage is that really none of this is coming from me. None of my own energy is going into the healing. I am just trying to open my own channels as wide as possible to allow the most divine energy to flow through. And that's why the first step in the healing process is invocation. I'm invoking for blessings. I'm praying to God and to the higher beings to pour down their blessings in this healing session. And then I just try to let that flow through me. So in the process of healing, I'm taking in more energies than I can put out, and I become healed and energized in the process.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, opposite of being drained. At the end of a day of healing, I feel so good. I feel wired. I mean, I might be tired of being on my feet, but at the same time, I feel great. And so I think a part of that is the energies are filling me as I'm doing the healing work, as opposed to draining by using my own energies.
Wow. Now, I am jealous of that because I've had the complete opposite for 15 years, and I just feel beat down.
Right.
I feel beat down.
Well, that's a natural feeling after your energies have gone into and you've taken on congestion. So that's one of those things where if you took the 2-day class and if you learned some of the very basic techniques, you would be able to shield yourself, you'd be able to cleanse yourself and prevent that drainage by the end of the day. And I mean, that's why I think this is good to do healings for others, but at a minimum, sometimes just healings for ourselves is important too, so that we can stay healthy.
Is it harder to perform on yourself a healing than have someone do it for you?
It's really no more difficult. The only difference is sometimes, like if you want a healing session, sometimes you just want to sit there and relax. That's the only difference, is if you're doing it on yourself, you're not really relaxing, you're doing the healing work.
Right.
But otherwise, as far as the effectiveness of it, you are, just as if you were doing healing on somebody, you are just receiving that healing energy.
Okay.
And so it's, self-healing is a very, I think, a wonderful benefit of pranic healing.
Well, I have to say, when we had a session with you, I Justin and I have talked about it after we had a session. We talked about it on the next Friday. I don't know if you heard that show or not, but
yes,
I had some pretty wild stuff happen with myself.
It was fun watching you move with the energy because
that was pretty wild.
It looked like you could feel it. And that was really, really interesting because when I'm doing it, I never know what's going to happen. And so I'm open to whatever a person's experience is, but I never know.
Do a lot of people, do you have to be more energy sensitive to have an experience like I did, where your body actually is like overtaken by the energy?
That seems to be the case. People who are not very sensitive, they won't really notice it. They won't really move with it, or, they may walk away saying, well, I don't feel any differently. But then, by the end of the day, whatever it was is gone that they came in with.
Okay. Yeah. Because when I left, you had, there was a time where my head, Justin was like asleep on the couch. I go, did you see that? He goes, no.
I got no sleep.
I had my eyes closed.
He was in the zone. He was enjoying the relaxation of the whole event.
But at some point, my head literally was being drawn so far forward and then so far back. It felt like someone was grabbing my hair and just slowly pulling me back. And I'm not kidding. I don't know if other people have probably told you this, but my whole body had a hot burning, warming sensation from the top of my head to the tip of my toes. And that lasted afterward for about a half hour before it went away, but I was flush. Like, I had physical things happening in my body.
So you were very sensitive to the energy.
That was amazing.
That's way cool.
It was way cool.
What I noticed is, people who can feel it, like sometimes I'll have somebody there, they'll have their eyes closed, they'll be nice and relaxed, and then all of a sudden they'll open their eyes and look at me. Well, they felt like I was tapping on them, but I was actually standing 6 feet away, just moving my hand. And so yeah, different people that can actually feel it, the sensitivities, it's all over the spectrum as far as what they notice.
Anne Louise in the chat room says, is it like Reiki or Reiki?
Reiki.
It is similar. There are a lot of similarities. Now, Reiki, I understand, literally means soul energy, if you break down the parts of the word. Prana meaning life energy. So they come from the same basis. I understand that Reiki does involve some physical contact. Pranic healing doesn't involve any physical contact between the practitioner and the subject. But other than that, it's the same idea in that we're cleansing off negative energies. We're putting in some fresh, healthy energy. And so from that aspect, they are very similar. And I know a lot of people who do both Reiki and pranic healing. I know people that, most people that have done both have told me that they feel pranic healing is a little bit stronger, but I've never experienced Reiki personally, so I don't know how it would feel to me.
Have you seen that video online? That's I'm not sure how accurate or how valid it is, but it's a video where there is a group of people in China, and there's a lady that supposedly has cancer, right? And she's on the bed.
It's a tumor, big tumor.
Big tumor, and they have is it like a sonogram or what is the?
Yeah, some kind of ultrasound machine on it.
An ultrasound machine, and there's about 5 or 6 different Chinese practitioners in this hospital, and they're all hovered around this lady's bed, and you can see them standing there, and then to the left of them is the screen where it shows the tumor, and they start doing this chant. And it's like
in
over
agreement
and over and
with
over.
each other for her healing.
And and then it shows on the MRI screen the tumor, and it's like this thing. It sort of just it shrinks in real
within
time.
7 minutes.
Wow,
it's completely.
It's amazing. I don't know.
That is so cool.
If it's true or not, but it looks like it. Everything is.
And you and I remember going, could this be? And we want to believe it, but like you were saying, Bill, you've seen actual swelling go down before your eyes. So, what do you do with that information?
Yeah,
there's
energy,
something
right?
bigger than we are.
It really is. And I've had the chance, but here's the thing where if I saw that on a video, I would say, I'm not sure.
Yeah, because you're not
sure
there.
If I buy that. Yeah, exactly. So it took my own personal experience watching things like that happen to say, okay, now I'm the one looking at it, and so I can see it.
Yeah.
That's one of those things. Boy, I really don't know. But what I do know is there's a lot out there that's really above and beyond, what I can see, touch, and feel.
Well, we were speaking during the break, which was an interesting thing to touch on a little bit. You said you were. Oh, go ahead.
Really quickly.
Sure.
I know you have to be back by 11. It's 10:30 now. Do you have to leave?
If I'm on the road by 11, it's fine.
Okay.
Oh, you are.
Let's just go for 10 more minutes, maybe.
I'm good for a half hour.
Okay, you just let us know. 'Cause I know you gotta get back.
Yeah.
Well, there's a reason why. There's a reason why whenever I do intro classes to pranic healing, there's a reason why I usually get done around midnight, because we could talk for hours about this, and you just don't realize the time going by. Yes. There's so much to tell. Thank you for that.
No, be aware of this time. Good call.
So what were you talking about?
Well, during the break, it was so fascinating. You were saying you've been treating a woman that has this Pomeranian dog, and you told us this amazing story, and then we kind of started unfolding. And you mentioned work with mediums, that she's been seeing a medium as well, who's been kind of helping her on an emotional level connect to maybe her husband who had passed away or things like this. And I asked you what you thought of that. Being into energy and being into health and being also into the medic fireman side. It's like you have all these interesting combos that you're dealing with, and you might have not believed in that in the past, but what's your experience with mediumship and things with energy, with deceased people maybe being able to hook up with us in our life?
Well, what's funny is I talked about how I got into pranic healing because of my wife's situation. I think the reason I was open up to that point was because of my study of the afterlife. And that, if you want to look at the spark that started everything, I would have to say that's it. Here I am, working as a paramedic and routinely working with people at the end of their lives and working on somebody, in some cases people are already unconscious by the time we arrive on scene, and, it's a matter of just watching their heart stop. But sometimes people are awake and talking and conscious, and their health declines so quickly that in the matter of minutes, they go to unconsciousness, they go to apnea, which is not breathing, their heart stops, and then all of a sudden, by the time we get to the hospital, they are completely dead. And I had to ask myself, where did they go? What just happened? They were here a few minutes ago, and now they're gone. Where did they go? And the curiosity, you wouldn't believe the curiosity I had in my mind as far as working with these people who were, just crossed over. And I didn't know what to believe. I mean, I don't even really know what my belief was beforehand. I believed there was a heaven, but, as far as beyond that, what it was about, I had no idea. So the fascination with the afterlife truly came as a matter of my career. And so, when we're going back to the years, there was a TV show on called Crossing Over with John Edward.
I remember that.
Yeah, remember? That was like one of the first medium after-death communication shows that came out.
In the 90s?
It would have been early, probably late 90s. It would have been late 90s.
Early 2000s, yeah. It went
mid-late
for a while,
90s, yes. And so I would watch that show, and I would and my own skepticism, is this guy real, or is he? It's on TV. Anything can be on TV.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I was fascinated, but I wasn't sure. And so I started getting books by different medium authors and reading. I read his books. I read Sylvia Browne. I read James Van Praagh. I read several well-known medium authors, and their stories were so consistent. I said, well, they're either all corroborating, or they're all making this up and sharing their information, or there's some truth to this. And I really didn't know which was which. But that really got me, interested in the whole metaphysical world and what's going on in the afterlife. What their message to me was very inspirational. I mean, all of their messages were very clear that the heaven world is so much, more peaceful and loving than what we're going through right now. So it gave me some, hope for the afterlife. Now, to fast forward through pranic healing, and then as we get into our Arhatic yoga, the spiritual practice that you can take if you want to learn how to do better pranic healing, they talk a lot about the existence of the soul and our soul's progress one lifetime after the next lifetime after the next lifetime. And you realize that, the inner world is just a wonderful place where you can do so many great things, and you're not confined to the physical body, and you're not, limited to being in one place. But your powers and your ability to travel and communicate are so much greater as a soul. So that makes me, with what I see at work and then what I study in healing work, they just go together as far as, being so inspirational for the future. So for this one lady that we were talking about, she's, so she goes to mediums, and, like I said, I wouldn't have known what to expect, but now I've come to the point where I believe that there are certain people have a certain ability. Once again, you got to be a little bit skeptical, because anyone could put a sign on the front door and say, I'm a medium, and you don't know what to believe. So
right.
You do have to validate for yourself. But all of her messages have been very, very consistent, accurate, validations from her husband, who's gone to the other side. And, he'll be able to, the medium can describe, the furniture in their retirement home. The medium was able to say, you have a light that goes on and off now and then. And she says, yes, I do. And the medium said, well, that is him. He's coming to let you know he's there with you.
That's weird.
And it is just, like I said, it's bizarre. And then, I would still be skeptical, except, my wife's brother, passed away in a car accident about 2 years ago. And so, as part of my wife's emotional closure, I actually made an appointment with her to see a medium, and a very similar experience as far as being able to tell her that he is very present still with us. In fact, not confined to the body. They are present among all the family members simultaneously, and they're very engaged in what's going on in our world here.
Yeah.
So that help, that guidance that they can give us is still, just a matter of our being open to it sometimes. It blows me away.
Have you read that book by Anita Morjani? Have you? Do you know about her?
No, I haven't heard. Heard her.
She had a late stage, stage 4 lymphatic cancer, I think, and she was, I think, maybe 40 at the time. This is maybe 10 years ago. But her cancer was so bad that she actually ended up dying. And
she went into a coma, and then
she went to a coma.
Crossed over.
Yeah, she crossed over, and she talks about her experience, and she was able to describe the conversations that the doctors had around her when she was gone, and she was able to describe conversations that her parents and her brother were having, and all this stuff. And she talks about her experience coming back into the body after that, and it was almost like a contract that she had. And she said she's going to teach people about how to live the life that they're supposed to live and that kind of thing. And because she was living a lie and this whole thing before she died. And then so she came back, and within, I think, 2 days, all of her tumors shrunk, completely gone.
Wow.
Hospital discharged her within 3 days, I
Within
think.
like 4 months, she was, at least according to her book and her thing.
Her story.
But in 4 months, she was, dancing at weddings and
Isn't that wild?
Weird
Cancer
stuff,
free.
right?
There's so many stories like that. And my daughter got a book called Heaven is for Real for Christmas last year, and we read that together. And I thought, this is 10 years ago I read that book, and I would have thought, well, I don't know. But now I read that book, and I'm like, oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, and totally. Soul leaves for a little while, comes back. It has all these stories about the other side and the inner world,
Weird,
and
isn't it?
it's. I think it's weird, but then it makes it seem like, you know what? It doesn't seem like it's all that bad. I mean, it takes away the fear. I mean, if I had any fear of dying in the past, it's been taken away by the fact that there's something so much greater waiting for us at the end of this, at the end of our work here.
There's a really interesting YouTube video described. I think it might have been on 60 Minutes or something, but it was featured this little boy, who I think help me out, Kate. I think it was around, he was 4 or 5 years old, and he started having all these nightmares about World War II planes. Have you heard about this story?
No.
And he had all these nightmares about World War II planes and
crashing and burning,
and then he was obsessed with World War II planes, and he knew how to all the instruments within the planes, and he and this little boy was saying that he was actually a World War II fighter pilot in a previous life.
Wow!
Now his parents were sort of
devout, strong Christians.
Okay.
Didn't know what to think of that,
right?
Who don't like the reincarnation idea,
right?
And so so this little boy kept going on and on. He was describing his friends, the plane. He was describing all these things that he shouldn't have known. And it turns out that he talked about all these people he knew, and they went and researched and went and found these people, and everything the boy was saying was true.
Wow.
And it was just this weird.
And then they took him out into the middle of the ocean where his plane had been shot down, and he had this service so he could let it go because he was being haunted by this story. And he made peace with where his friend died, and they had to ask themselves, what is going on here? And they've written a book, I believe. And
what is the book?
I don't remember. We'll have to find the link and post it, but there's way more going on than we.
Yeah. What do you do with that?
I know.
mean, it forces you to just, at least open your mind and ask what's going on here.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the weirdest story. I'll put a link to it on this page.
Yeah.
It does. It sort of, makes you think. What else is happening?
A lot.
A lot, right?
Well, along with that, a year and a half ago, I wouldn't have believed that energy medicine would have worked, or I didn't know really what it was. But even 8 months ago was the first time I had worked at a distance on the phone with an energy worker from Canada. And I couldn't believe that worked when you're actually not in the person's presence.
Right,
So how many of the people you work with are distant, and does it work just as well as being
it's
with
funny you should say that, because talk about a big leap of faith for me. When they taught us how to do distant healing, I was more than a little bit skeptical.
I bet.
Is this really going to work? I mean, we're not even together.
Right.
So I work with some people over the phone, and one was a firefighter in my department who lives in Big Bear. We could never get our schedules to line up to get together for a healing, and so I didn't want it to go on any longer. We set up a distant session for back pain healing, and the back pain went completely away. So I started seeing in my own validations that this is working. And after the last time I came into your show, or, in June, I actually had several of your listeners that contacted me for appointments, and I had a healing in Montana, one in Seattle. In addition to those who were local that came into my office for healings, I had a few distant healings that went very well. So yes,
awesome.
They teach us that energy flows through the earth. It flows through the air. It flows everywhere. God is omnipresent. And so if you accept those principles that divine blessings are everywhere, physical distance doesn't become an issue any longer. And so whether it's over the phone, whether it's by Skype or speakerphone, or, any other way that we can do a distant healing, it works just as well.
It's cool about this whole idea of the quantum, world, and this kind of idea, superstring theory, and all this stuff is coming out more and more these days, and people are talking about it more. And the idea of non-locality is definitely something that they've been able to do, and what have they been able to do? Transfer photons, transport them to a couple different locations at the same time, and all this stuff. And so it's sort of bringing, at least scientifically, bringing to light some reinforcement for the type of work that you do and energy work and all that. You know?
Yes, and I love the fact that that science and spirituality can work together. In one of Master's books, it talks about the separation of church and state and says that it is healthy to have a separation of church and state, but there should be a separation between science and spirituality, that those two fields should work together, one to validate the other, because a spiritual technique could have a scientific, a validation if the two fields are working together. And I think, wow, how amazing is that we could possibly bring those together, and so
the question is, it's easy to get people like us who subscribe to some deeper levels of thought, to accept the science, but to get the science people to accept this side, that's
a tougher nut to crack. Yes, it really is. But one of the principles they teach us in Arhatic yoga is that the soul, that if we're made in the image and likeness of God, that there is a certain amount of omnipresence within our soul. It's a matter of degree, but that quality is there. So two souls connected to planet Earth can come together for a healing session, and with great results.
What is the name of the yoga you said?
It's Arhatic yoga, and Arhatic, it's a tricky word, but it's spelled Arhatic, and Arhat is a word that means highly evolved soul, equivalent to like Paramahansa, or in the Christian tradition we might call it the saint, somebody who is a very, very highly evolved soul. And in Master's instruction on Arhatic yoga, it's a meditation system that's designed to increase the spiritual cord and increase your ability to accept the downpouring of divine energy, so that the Kundalini energy can be safely awakened and regulated by higher energies. It's a healthy way to bring those energies together to allow you to do great healings and great service.
So is it a yoga, or is it more of a meditation, or is it both?
It's a little of both, but it's more of a meditation system.
Okay.
It includes several different disciplines of yoga. As far as like the Hatha yoga postures, there are a few simple body positions that we learn as far as energetic flow around the body. As far as Raja yoga, Bhakti yoga, and some of those other schools, it's a meditation system that brings stillness. It also activates your energy centers. It also allows communication with the higher soul, and it's done in a systematic way so that you're safely without causing any physical problems or emotional problems that you can manifest if you do spiritual work without proper training.
So is that designed to help teachers become more I guess just better at their craft? Is that why it's there as a...
It's actually just to make you... It goes along with character building and virtues. It's just to make you a better person. As you become a better person, your energies become more stronger. As your energies become stronger, you can do more great works. And as you do more great works, your energies become even stronger. It's actually a very positive cycle.
Wow.
Yes, because I know one of the questions you were mentioning is, which comes first? Is it the wellness or the higher energy? What I noticed is, no matter which comes first, as a person becomes well, they become open to a higher energy. And then as they become more open to that higher energy, they become even more healthy, and wellness is even better. It's almost, I don't know which one comes first, but I do know that once they start working together, people experience great, physical wellness, great emotional peace, mental clarity, and all those great characteristics that make life just go better.
Well, that's sort of like our journey. When I first got into health, I was much more closed-minded, and you start to feel better. Then you start to realize, wow, living foods and the vibrational energy of food does something to your DNA. And so you start bringing in the enzymes and the juices, and then you start feeling better. You have more energy. And then as a result of that, like you just said, your mind sort of expands. And it almost happens in a way, at least for me, where it wasn't something where it was a conscious decision. My mind's it's just all of a sudden, wow, something sounds interesting. I'm more open to that than I thought I was.
I think for me, because I'm probably similar to you in that situation, it's one of those things where I don't realize it until it's been a while. And then I'm like, wow, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I don't notice it as it's happening, but after a while I realize, wow, I feel better, or I'm feeling better, or, I have more energy.
Yeah.
But it's not something I can put my finger on right away.
Have you noticed with your clients or customers or clients that that there's a connection with diet and food, and some people that are more closed-minded might eat a more poor diet or more of a dead food. I mean, we eat, cooked food as well, but have you found a connection with the mindset with people and what their diets are?
That's in some cases, like some people I work with, they're very healthy eating, whether it's a raw diet or something. But a lot of the people I work with, that's not even on their radar. I mean, there's a lot of people I work with, they're just, normal people that have been eating kind of like most people eat. So that's one thing that I don't, that's not always a beginning part of our healing journey. But what I do try to tell people, and especially if we're working on one of the more difficult illnesses, if we're working on something very difficult, I'll just say, you know what, it would be helpful to you if you try to make a few simple changes to your diet that will help your energy stay clean. One of the first ones is, if you can eliminate pork from your diet, that's a great start. Of all the different negative energy foods, they teach us that pork is one of the dirtiest energetically. So I'll say if we can start with that, that's a great start.
Paleo people won't like that.
You know what? That's funny. A lot of guys at my station are eating the paleo diet, and we just agree to disagree on that point. It helps us get along.
They love it.
Yeah, exactly. And I got to admit, when I started this, giving up pork was was the only difficult meat for me to give up, because I was like, oh my gosh, that is so delicious. But I realized I want to do better healings. I want my energies to be cleaner, so I did. And year by year, year after year, over a course of 4 years, I weaned myself onto vegetarianism.
Oh wow!
And so, and in the firehouse, that's easier said than done sometimes in the station.
It wouldn't be well received, would it?
No, not at first. It's starting to catch on little by little.
Are you strictly vegetarian now?
Yes.
Do you do any animal products like butter or anything like that? Or?
Yes. I'm not vegan. So that's right. Milk, dairy, butter, that's still okay. And in pranic healing, eggs, eggs are still okay. Huh. It's just the actual emotional energy in the meat that effect that we take into our body that can contaminate our emotional centers. So as far as just the actual meat, that's it. And it's like I have no moral high ground against eating meat. Right. There are stories in my fire department of meat that I've eaten that will go on beyond my career. But energetically speaking, it has helped me in healings, and that's what's more important to me. So it's an easy sacrifice.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah. We have a lot of people that sort of do that kind of idea where they eliminate the meat or the organ meats and things, but they have the eggs, or they'll have like a whey protein, or they'll have butter or something like that. And it seems like it would affect you, especially if you have, if you're eating factory farmed animals. That's a big deal.
That's something I never thought of until I started on the path to vegetarianism, and I did a little bit of research. I tried to do my own due diligence before I started on that, and to read a few books about the way that we treat our livestock in this country, further validated my belief that vegetarian was a good idea.
Yeah.
Because for thousands of years, anybody can give us the argument. For thousands of years, people have been eating animals.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You grow animals on your farm, and they're healthy, they're free, and living in sunlight and eating natural grass. That's probably healthier to take into your body than what we're getting right now.
Well, then too, people on our show have been talking about eating lower down on the food chain, and these cows and different animals we're eating are uptaking so many toxins, and so it's just a different world.
Yes, that is true
today.
That is true.
Isby, our friend in the chat room, is so funny. He says bacon, the gateway meat.
The gateway meat, like the gateway drug.
Awesome.
That was fabulous.
Awesome.
Funny.
Wow.
Bill, this has been awesome.
Great info.
So much fun.
I you know what? It's amazing to be here. It's a blessing to be here, and I want to thank you for inviting me here again. This is a wonderful opportunity for me, and like I said, to bring awareness about pranic healing, to help people learn that there is something out there, that there is something that could help people achieve wellness or whatever it is you're looking for in life that doesn't necessarily require taking in a medicine or something that may not be, helpful.
Yeah.
I love the chance that I can reach out to your listeners and to help bring awareness of this wonderful healing technique.
Yeah, it's awesome. We like to explore all the different kind of healing modalities, and some may work, some may not work, and some may work for people in different times in their life too. If you try something,
that's true.
Maybe it's just the time in your life is not right, but and then the listener gets to just sort of pick whatever.
Yep, absolutely.
Because it's options. I think people don't realize they don't have options. People think there's only 3 options.
A lot of people come to me and say, hey, I'm doing other things. What should I do? And I say, try them all and then do the one that works best for you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you pranic healing is going to be the one that works best for you. I want you to decide what it is for you. And I think that's the most important thing is people will trust their inner voice as far as making the best decision.
Yeah.
I have one last question. What is in your bag? Because Maggie
look at that.
is literally passed out right by Bill's bag with her arms touching it like she's like reaching for it. She never does that. Do you have something magical in there?
Well, all my different healing oils and healing spray, and I might have a couple of crystals in there. Wow.
I'm going to post that on Facebook.
That
she's obsessed with whatever's in your bag. It's
that is
so
awesome.
Cute.
Well, she obviously feels all the healthy energy coming out of that, and she is so mellow.
That is the best thing I've ever seen.
Oh, too funny.
Bill, we're going to have to get you a float session.
Yep.
And, yes, absolutely. Totally.
About that.
We can break that down on another show.
Yes, let's do that.
All right. Well, thanks, Bill, for being on. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We really appreciate you guys in the chat room. It's been so much fun. We could just talk for hours here, but Bill's got to get going. So we appreciate all of you for being on and listening to the podcast. This is episode 330. We'll post this as soon as it becomes available, hopefully soon. And if you guys would like to support us, we have a great store with tons of great products on our store. And if you want to go through our link on Amazon or do a donation of any kind, we greatly appreciate that. So anything
and please
that you guys
keep
want
us in your mind for your holiday shopping. Anne Louise said this morning in the chat that she finally remembered to use our Amazon link for all of her shopping. So thank you. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, that really helps a lot. So pass the show on to your friends, anybody that you think might resonate with this information. And if you guys could, a really great way that you guys could help support us in a free way is if you go over to iTunes and type in Extreme Health Radio and leave us a review and a rating. Apparently that is really good for helping more people find the show, more people realizing they have options for their health care. So if you guys could go over to iTunes and type in Extreme Health Radio, that would be awesome. And we appreciate it, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Bye, guys.
Hey, everybody. This is Josie, Justin's mum. Don't tell him, but I know he would absolutely be really happy if you would sign up to his free weekly newsletter. And don't forget to share this with all your friends. This is the buzzing bumblebee signing off.
That's so good.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you for listening to this episode.
It's time to go for now, but our mission does not end with this show.
Justin and Kate will be back with another interview packed full of ideas, discoveries, and unique ways to regain your health.
Head on over to extremehealthradio.com/subscribe and instantly download our free gift too that contains cutting-edge strategies to start making healthy lifestyle changes today.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis of any disease, nor an attempt to treat or prevent any disease or condition. While information in this blog is discussed